Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to New Phase Entertainment. Welcome back to New Phase Entertainment. This is Mr. Straight, and I'm going to give it to you straight. I saw this news and I've read intensively about it, and I saw so many similarities between what is happening in Peru and what is happening in Nigeria. And one of the reasons why I want to really go in depth into this news is that so that we can get to educate ourselves, get to see what is happening in other country, like what has happened or what is happening in our country, on how they are handling it and how everything is going, which is far different, the sharp difference of the reaction and attitude compared to what we have here. We're going to see how their leaders, how the protesters were cracked down, and that led to the resignation of the president of the country, and so many ministers, 13 ministers actually resigned, and so many things, like how they order non-private organizations, private organizations, and so many people, organizations that were supposed, like even talking about the biggest bank, having to come up and say you need to resign. Okay, unlike here that in Nigeria, that it seems like our leaders are just too, would I say too clever, or too, I don't know, I don't want to use the other word, but start with W and ends with D, so it has K in between. It's like that is what. So I wouldn't want, I'll be doing a lot of this service if I don't really let you read through the report, so that you can understand. Yes, it's all about education. It won't be like I'm just so biased about everything, or not like a bias, but not giving you the full details. So pardon me, this is going to be very long, and if you can at any point in time, you can fast forward it so that you can get but if you are patient enough, you are going to learn a lot. Okay, Lima, Peru. Peru was without a president Sunday night after its latest leader resigned just 6 days after taking power, and lawmakers were unable to agree on a new head of state to end a constitutional crisis that exposed deep popular anger over corruption in the country's political class. A country that before the coronavirus pandemic was considered a shining economic star, Peru is now flaying in uncharted waters. There is no president at the helm, and a fractured and deeply unpopular Congress is trying to decide who should lead the country while people protest in the street. With two presidents gone in less than a week, Martin Vizcarra was impeached Monday, and then Manuel Merino, who engineered his predecessor's ouster, resigned Sunday. Peru has been teetering with anarchy. On Sunday night, the same lawmakers whose impeachment of Mr. Vizcarra touched off 6 days of protest were debating who among them would be chosen to replace Mr. Merino, who had no vice president. They had at one point been considering a left-wing lawmaker, Rocio Silva, who had broken with most lawmakers to vote against impeachment. Media reports said the lawmakers also were considering members of the centrist Popular Party, which overwhelmingly opposed removing Mr. Vizcarra. But by late in the evening, the badly divided body, which polls shows most Peruvians consider corrupt, hadn't appointed a new president to lead this country of 30 million people. It's a country that is obviously very agitated and fed up, and really suffering because of the pandemic and the economy, said Michael Shifter, president of the Washington-based Inter-American Dialogue. He said Peru needs someone with a steady hand who can unify a divided society until presidential elections in April. But even under the best scenario, it's going to be rocky, he said. Peru is the latest Latin American nation to be rattled by the political turmoil over the past year. In Chile, protests led the country to begin a 2-year process to rewrite its dictatorship-era constitution. In Bolivia, ex-president Evo Morales was forced to flee the country last November after allegations of fraud in his re-election bid. His party returned to power last month with the election of his former finance minister. In Peru, fury over corruption in the Congress. 68 of some 130 members are under investigation for graft and other crimes, boiled over this week when Mr. Viscari was unseated after his government grappled with the twin challenges of a pandemic that has caused more than 30,000 deaths, the second highest per capita rate in the world. Let me read that again. The second highest per capita rate in the world, and a blow to a once high-flying economy. From jungle town to highland cities, Peruvians hit the street to protest, culminating in demonstrations Saturday in which police cracked down, resulting in the death of 2 men and injuries to about 100. Many of those who protested saw the fall of Mr. Merino in less than a week as an opening for bigger change, though exactly what kind of Peru would emerge from the chaos was unclear. This is the best thing that could have happened for Peru, said Raul Abregu, 55, whose father-in-law died in COVID-19, the illness caused by the new coronavirus. Another protester, Johnny Kankari, 48, said, "We need to radically change the entire system." Many in Peru's business establishment, however, just want things to go back to normal. From 2003 until last year, Peru grew at the fastest rate among Latin America's biggest economies. It signed trade agreements with the US, China, the European Union, and many other countries. The result was a sharp reduction in poverty, falling from almost 60% of the population to about 20% last year, according to the World Bank. This is very important, please. If you are a Nigerian or an African, listen to this. I want to read it again. Many in Peru's business establishment, however, just want things to go back to normal, okay? From 2003 until last year, Peru grew at the fastest rate among Latin America's biggest economies. It signed trade agreement with the US, the same trade agreement that we normally sign, Nigeria sign and other African countries. It signed trade agreement with the US, China, and the European Union and many other countries. The result was a sharp reduction in poverty. Yeah, the poverty will increase from almost 60% of the population to about 20% last year, according to the World Bank. We all know what we get here. The pandemic has buffeted the economy, leading to the International Monetary Fund to estimate it would contract by 40% this year. Imagine, from 20% to 40%. Mr. Viscari's ousting, along with a protest this week, further alarmed business leaders accustomed to operating in an economy that grows steadily year after year, even in times of political tumult. Though unusual, several top executives went so far as to urge Mr. Merino to leave office, including, please pay attention to this. Let me read. Though unusual. So yeah, it is like, though unusual, even there it is unusual, but here they cannot go the unusual way. Though unusual, several top executives went so far as to urge Mr. Merino to leave office, including the chief executives of food company. Can you hear that? Alicop, mining company, Minso, and Banco de Credito, Peru's biggest bank. You can see, yeah, it is not like that. CBN listen to the president. All the banks in the country listen to the president. All the top businessmen, Aliko Dangote, Femi Tedola, mention them. They listen to the president. Okay, so how would the country change? With Peruvian protesting every day since Mr. Vizcarra left office, Mr. Merino's demonstration was under heavy pressure from its inception, with Peruvians seeing impeachments as a power grab by lawmakers looking to protect their personal interests and sideline anti-corruption investigations into their activities. By Saturday, after the two deaths during the protest, one after another of Mr. Merino's minister had abandoned the government. In all, 13 resigned. Just after noon Sunday, Merino, a former rice and bean farmer who was known as a fan of cockfighting, had resigned. I present my irrevocable resignation, Mr. Merino said in a television address. It is time for peace and unity. Political analysts say Mr. Merino's resignation may not be enough to restore the stability as protests continued across the country Sunday night over anger about the police crackdown on demonstrators. Several human rights organizations on Sunday called on prosecutors to open up criminal charges against Mr. Merino and other top officials. For now, Mr. Vizcarra is the only player in the recent political drama to be under investigation. His ousting was based on unproved allegations that he took $640,000 in bribes from construction companies while a state governor from 2011 to 2014. He denied the allegations, which prosecutors say are based on testimony from confidential witnesses. Polls say most Peruvian, let's listen to this, very, very important. Polls says most Peruvian want prosecutors to investigate Mr. Vizcarra, fine. But 4 of 5 Peruvians also had told IPSOS in October that they wanted Mr. Vizcarra finished out his term in July. Just as Nigerians will let him finish after 4 years. After 4 years, the same thing still continues. Why don't you let these people go once and for all? That is just according to the way what is happening here. Lawmakers use an obscure constitutional clause to oust Mr. Vizcarra by declaring him morally unfit to hold office. With no vice president, Mr. Merino was next in line to take over as the head of Congress. He was sworn in Tuesday, becoming Peru's 3rd president in fewer than 4 years. Did you guys hear that? Becoming Peru's 3rd president in fewer than 4 years. For us, no, let it complete. It must complete 4 years. After 4 years, you now have power. What are you saying? Let it come to election. Then you come and say you want to remove the government. You cannot remove the government. I'm taking it to personal. Okay, let me just finish. Just one more line. Many Peruvians saw it as akin to a coup d'etat, one that would benefit those who did the ousting. It's a tremendous abuse, said Cesar Quintana, a 60-year-old in Lima who joined protest. They are just going to fill their pockets. Yeah, it's the youth. The leaders, the 60-year-olds are not. They are not coming out. The 60-year-old, they are not on protest. It's the youth. The 60-year-old have given up. The 60-year-olds. I'm not saying like yes. We have to be frank. I will tell you straight here. What is happening here is just like what is. I don't know what the leader. So you guys have seen it. I don't want to say much, but you guys have seen all what is happening in Peru, in some other European countries, on how they are changing their countries. It is not enough like A protest was started up, the end SARS protest, and after a while, they are out to do what they did, and no criminal charges, no court. It's just what's it called? Oputa panel. It's just the Buhari panel, or who are the panels? That is there. So we need to educate ourselves. We need to really get to. You can imagine just yesterday, Sheon Kuti receiving threat from the government that they want to institute a movement today, but they kind of like abrupt it. A letter has been sent. If you dare go on with the movement, with the establishment of the movement today, the African shrine will be closed, and I'm sure everybody will just keep quiet. Nobody will say anything. It is personal. It is personal, But until we all start to stand up for our rights, no matter what, it is our right. We don't need, in this story now, we're not hearing of the United Nations coming in, we're not hearing of the United States coming in, we're not hearing of the UK coming in. Let us stand. Don't let me be. But you know what to do. We don't really like so many of these guys are really saying, and the way Shane would normally say, we don't need any of these people to take control of our country. We're not saying like the way they are putting it. They are putting it in a way as if it's a violence. They're putting it in a way as if we want to create mayhem. Nobody is creating any mayhem. We know there are right people that are supposed to be in the right place. We know that the system is corrupt. We know that the structure is just engineered to support only the leaders, the few, the House of Assembly, the State House of Assembly. We know all this, and that is the restructuring that we want. We want a new structure. In fact, no restructuring. We want a new structure. Okay, so that is what we want, and we're not talking of it doesn't have to go. It can be bloodless, it can be non-violent, and that is exactly what the End SARS movement was all about before the mastermind and turn the whole thing around. All right, people, leave a comment in the comment section if in case you need to replay this video in order to understand more. Please do, and I'll try as much as possible if I can get the write-up and put it in the description. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to share this video, like this video, and if you're yet to subscribe, please do so. Bye.
Please subscribe to this channel. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Share this video. Subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends to subscribe to this channel.